Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to High Volume Video. I'm Keith, and today I have this box I just got in from brother Belial. I actually opened the box already just to check and make sure everything was in there that I ordered. I was pretty excited to get this box because pretty much everything in here is it's all Severin titles, and they were all blind buys, and I think I have 10 titles here. So I figured in today's video, let's do a quick unboxing and show off 10 brand new to me Severin titles. And because I don't typically like to just do these unboxing videos where I have nothing to say about the movie, so to help me out, I have Future Me here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show off the titles that I picked up and kind of read the description on Letterboxd and see what the average rating is, and then I'll talk to Future Me over here and see, how it panned out, what I thought of the movie. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first title I have here is Cop Game. So Cop Game is from 1988. It's directed by Bruno Mattei, and the description on Letterboxd goes, in the final days of the Vietnam War, someone is killing the officers of the elite Cobra Force. 2 undercover MPs are assigned to the case. The trail leads from the streets to Saigon to the war zone. And this has an average rating of 3 stars. I actually did watch the trailer for this, and I thought it looked pretty cool. So, Future Keith, what did you think of this?
Yeah, dude, so Cop Game was a pretty fun time. It's kind of just this mix-up of exploitation, action, taking place kind of around the final days of the Vietnam War, and it's actually kind of like a bit of a buddy cop movie. The case these military cops are investigating, and the story overall is a little bit unnecessarily convoluted. Even with a couple pretty lengthy exposition dumps, I was still left a little confused as to who the bad guys were and what their motivations were, but it was still fun overall. And I think you're not really watching these kinds of movies for the intrigue and the mystery. I think you're really just kind of watching this to watch shit blow up and watch these buddy cops just kind of go around getting into gunfights and spouting off one-liners. It really kind of just feels like one of those old Chuck Norris-y canon films, and yeah, I had a good time with it. I'd probably give this maybe 2.5 or 3 stars. It's not great, but I had a fun time with it.
Okay, very good, Future Keith. Thank you for your input. Moving on. Next up, I have Delirium. This is from 1979. It's directed by Peter Maris, and the description on Letterboxd goes, explores the limits to which the human mind can be stretched. As a maniac slashes his way through the city, a lone survivor tries to stop his vicious murder spree, only to discover there is far more going on than just murder. And this one only has a 2.6 star average rating, but I have seen a video on YouTube where Quentin Tarantino kind of praises this movie, so I'm excited to give this one a watch. Future Keith, what did you think of it?
Yeah, so I enjoyed Delirium quite a bit, actually. It starts out just kind of like this, it feels almost just like a grindhousey slasher for the first little bit of it, like 20 to 30 minutes of it. You're kind of just following this guy. He's like a Vietnam War veteran who's kind of lost his mind, and he's going around and just killing women at random, and kind of in tandem, you're following the police that are trying to catch him. But 20 to 30 minutes into the movie, it kind of shifts gears a little bit, and something is revealed about this guy, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, because what the film turns into is kind of what makes it interesting. But I think I can say without spoiling too much that it ends up turning into kind of a comment on vigilantism in a way. Yeah, the way that it does that, if I explain that, then it's going to spoil the movie for anybody who hasn't seen it. But yeah, I had a pretty good time with this movie, and yeah, I would probably rate it, 2.5 to 3 stars probably.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Future Keith. Moving on. Okay, and next up we have Shocking Dark. This is from 1989, directed by Bruno Mattei. The Letterboxd description says, in a polluted future Venice, researchers work to improve the situation. One day, unknown forces start killing them. A team of soldiers and a couple of civilians are sent to investigate. Soon they encounter strange murderous creatures. And this one has an average star rating of 2.5, and I see here that my friend Steven at After Hours Video has logged this, and he only gave it 1.5 stars. And the quote on the back says, the quote is from Bloody Disgusting, and it says, "Wow, you've got to see this movie." So, future Keith, do you think people need to see this movie?
So yeah, dude, Shocking Dark is just a straight up rip-off of Aliens. Maybe a little bit of Terminator thrown in there too, like the back of the box said. But yeah, it's mostly an Aliens rip-off. Some scenes are ripped straight out from Aliens, like the scene where Ripley and Newt are, sleeping and they wake up and they're kind of trapped in a room. That whole scene is basically ripped off. And there's a bunch of other stuff like that. The setting's very similar, but it's still pretty fun. It's very cheesy. The dialogue is super goofy, and yeah, this would be a fun one to have with like some buddies a fun one to watch with some buddies who, are big fans of the Alien series probably. And yeah, if you're just having a few beers with your buddies, it'd be pretty fun to watch.
Very good. Thank you very much, future Keith. Let's move on. Okay, and the next one I have here is from 1981. This is Nightmare, directed by Romano Scavolini. And the description reads, "The dream you can't escape alive. A drug-treated schizophrenic, plagued by horrible nightmares, is released from the hospital and goes on a killing spree." And this one has an average star rating of 3.1, and I've actually heard this one's pretty good. So, future Keith, what did you think of it?
Yeah, dude, so far out of all these blind buys, I liked Nightmares the most by far. It's kind of this grindhousey slasher, and it's very violent. It's a little bit sleazy. It's pretty gruesome. The kills are pretty brutal, and it's actually pretty creepy at times. Very intense, and there's even some good performances. I was actually surprised by how good some of these performances are in this movie, particularly the family that becomes kind of like the main target. Towards the end of the movie, I guess maybe like halfway through the movie, they kind of become like the main target of the killer. But aside from that, even for the kind of movie this is, it's very grindhousey, but I feel like the production quality is really good for this, and the story or the plot is pretty interesting actually. When you find out who this killer is and why he's doing what he's doing, I thought it was pretty interesting. So yeah, I'd probably give this one 3.5 to 4. Actually, no, you know what? I'd give this either 4 or 4.5 stars. I like this one a lot. I'd say if you're into movies like Black Christmas, Pieces, yeah, just kind of like real gritty slashers, kind of gruesome, gritty slashers, I would say check this one out if you haven't seen it.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, future Keith. Moving on. Okay, next up I have Zombie 4, also known as After Death. This is from 1989. It's directed by Claudio Fragasso. And the description on Letterboxd goes, "A woman goes back to the island where her parents were killed. They had been working on a cure for cancer and accidentally raised the dead by angering a voodoo priest. With the woman is a group of mercenaries, and they meet up with some other researchers. They raise the dead again, and all hell breaks loose." So from that description, it sounds pretty cool to me, but apparently this is from the creators of Troll 2 and Monster Dog, and yeah, I've heard this movie is pretty bad, but I like bad movies, and the average star rating on Letterboxd for this movie is 2.4 stars. So, future Keith, what did you think of it?
Maybe I should have watched Zombie 3 first.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you, future Keith. Moving on. Okay, and next up we have The Church. And this is from 1989. It's directed by Michael Soavi, who also did Cemetery Man, which I quite liked, so I'm kind of excited to check this one out. The description reads, "The 11th Commandment in a Gothic cathedral built on the mass grave of a Teutonic purge," I don't know what that means, "an ancient discovery by the new librarian will release an unholy maelstrom of madness, violence, and demonic vengeance." And this one actually comes highly recommended by Chris, also known as Bearded Film Guy, and Steven from After Hours Video, and also Jordan from the Movie Den. I've talked to all three of them about this movie, and they all highly recommend it. They say it's one of his most approachable movies, so I'm pretty excited to check this one out. It has an average star rating, if I didn't say already, of 3.3 on Letterboxd. So, future Keith, what did you think of it?
Yeah, dude, so I loved the beginning of this movie. So most of the movie takes place kind of in modern day times, pretty much all within this church that's been built on this burial ground. The very beginning of the movie shows the past and like what happened before the church was built, which is pretty cool. And then the modern day stuff is, for the most part, I really liked it. I did think points of it were kind of slow and maybe a little bit confusing, but there's definitely some really cool imagery in this movie. If you've seen the Scorpion releasing Blu-ray, which I almost picked up one day at my used place, but I ended up passing on it, and now obviously I have the Severin title. But that cover shows this like ball of like bodies, which you see like towards the end of this movie, and when you see that, it's like it's incredible. The practical effects are awesome, and there's a lot of cool visuals like that later on in the movie, and yeah, for the most part, it's got this cool, creepy, like gothic almost vibe, because most of the modern day stuff takes place in the church. There is some weird Italian stuff, as you would probably assume, it being one of these movies. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I think I need to give it another watch to fully understand everything that was going on. But yeah, I would probably give this 3 or 3.5 stars after first watch. I had a good time with this one.
Very good. Thank you very much, Future Keith. Moving on. Okay, and next up we have Endgame. This is from 1983, directed by Joe D'Amato. And the description reads, a future world where violence explodes in duels to the death. A telepathic mutant recruits a post-World War III TV game show warrior to lead her band of mutants to safety. Heard pretty much nothing about this, and the average star rating on Letterboxd is 2.9 stars. So, Future Keith, what's the deal with Endgame? Is it good? Is it bad? Should people watch it? Let us know.
Yeah, dude, so this is another one that I was pretty much sold on the cover alone. I mean, look at that. It's just so badass looking. And yeah, the movie's kind of exactly what you would expect based on that cover. It's a really just like a highly entertaining post-apocalyptic dystopian kind of action flick. It's kind of in the vein of stuff like Mad Max and The Running Man. It starts off with this kick-ass future gladiator TV show with some super on-the-nose social commentary. And then it kind of turns into this Mad Max style road movie where the main dude is he's hired to protect these mutants and transport them to safety, and he puts together this gang of dudes, a very eclectic gang of dudes. There's like a ninja, there's a big burly like kind of Viking looking dude, and even a dude like with an eye patch, but yeah, it's very fun, very goofy, some bad dialogue and whatnot, but that's kind of, what you're getting into with these kinds of movies. But yeah, so if you're into goofy kind of action-packed Mad Max style dystopian post-apocalyptic future type stuff like this, I really enjoyed it, and I think I would give this one 3.5, maybe even 4 stars. It's a really fun movie.
Okay, thank you very much, Future Keith. Moving on. And the next movie we have here is Alien from the Abyss, or also known as Alien from the Deep, I guess. This is from 1989. It's directed by Antonio Margheriti, and the description on Letterboxd reads, 2 members of Greenpeace discover that a local factory sheds radioactive waste into an active volcano, which has created a terrifying creature that wreaks havoc in the area. And I pretty much purely bought this off of the cover. It looks kind of like, I don't know, like a big bulky xenomorph with a giant freaking claw of some kind on there. I don't know, it looked pretty cool to me. The average star rating on Letterboxd is 2.7 stars. So, Future Keith, Does it deserve 2.7 stars?
Yeah, dude, I will say, based on this cover, I was expecting to see this dude a little more and maybe see a little bit more sci-fi action, but it really kind of takes like almost an hour to get into any of that stuff. But honestly, I found myself kind of sucked into the story. You kind of follow these two people. I think they're from Greenpeace, and they're like investigating this kind of evil corporation and they find out that they're dumping, I think it's radioactive material in this volcano, and that's kind of what creates this thing. I think in the movie they say that it came from outer space, but I think the movie is saying that it's actually just, I don't know, some like mutated creature or something that was awoken by the radioactive material being disposed of in the volcano. I don't know. It's a very sci-fi kind of mystery horror movie. I guess not really mystery, but yeah, it's very sci-fi. It feels almost like one of those like atomic era horror movies, kind of like The Blob. Or I just watched this other movie called The Green Slime. It has this very like 50s, 60s, like goofy, kind of over the top sci-fi horror vibes to it. Which I really kind of enjoy. So yeah, like I said, even though there's not like a ton of action, and when you do finally see the creature, it's very goofy. It looks pretty bad. It looks really cool on this cover, which is what sold me on the movie. I had heard nothing about it. Kind of just bought it off the basis of that cover. But yeah, when you see it, it's pretty bad, and you can see all the wires on it and everything. But I still enjoyed it. Sometimes that stuff can be pretty fun, and overall, yeah, I thought this movie was really fun actually, so I'd probably give this one about 3 stars.
Okay, thank you very much. Very insightful, Future Keith. Moving on. Okay, and the next one I have here is Closed Circuit, and Matt actually talked about this on our podcast. This was one of his blind buys, and he said he kind of enjoyed it. And so this is from 1978, directed by Giuliano Montaldo, and the description on Letterboxd reads, "At the local cinema, an audience watches a spaghetti western matinee. During the film's on-screen climactic duel, a bullet is fired into a patron. With no leads and a theater full of suspects, police investigators lock the doors, put everyone back in their seats, and run the movie again. But will this shot in the dark reveal the real killer?" Sounds pretty interesting to me. The average star rating is 3.6, so one of the higher ones out of this bunch I picked up. So, Future Keith, what did you think of Closed Circuit?
Yeah, dude, so I'm always kind of a sucker for movies that take place in a movie theater, and this movie particularly had a very interesting story, I would say, or a very interesting twist. Most of the movie, you're kind of just following these detectives and all these people that were in the movie theater when a shooting takes place. Just one person gets shot, and then the people all freak out. They try to leave, and then the detectives come, and they kind of make all the people who were at the movie theater stay there while they're investigating, which I found pretty weird and interesting. As an American, you know, I don't think that would be legal for the police to hold an entire movie theater full of people while they investigate and try to figure out who's the one who shot the person. But if I talk too much about this movie, it would be, if I go any further about the story, there would be some heavy spoilers. This movie goes some places that I absolutely was not expecting, and to be honest, I wasn't really expecting it for the most part to be just this story about these detectives trying to figure out how this happened. They do a reenactment at one point, and then yeah, I can't really say anything else without spoiling the movie. But it does have some very interesting ideas at play, and yeah, I can't really say anything else without getting into spoiler territory. So I enjoyed this movie. I thought it had some very interesting ideas, and I guess I would probably give it like 2.5, maybe 3 stars. I wasn't in love with this movie, but its concept alone makes it kind of worth seeing, I think.
Very good. Thank you very much, Future Keith. Moving on to the final movie. Okay, and I hopefully saved the best one for last. This is from 1987, Lucio Fulci's Aenigma. I actually haven't really heard much about this, but being, directed by Lucio Fulci, I have high hopes that it'll be at least decent. And on Letterboxd, the description reads, "The spirit of a comatose teenage girl possesses the body of a newcomer to her girls' boarding school in order to enact bloody revenge against the elitist, lingerie-clad co-eds responsible for her condition." The average star rating for this movie is 2.8. So, future Keith, what did you think of Enigma? Is it one of Lucio Fulci's better movies?
Yeah, dude, so for me at least, something strange happens psychologically when I watch movies like this about either a kid or a person being bullied and they're, going out and getting revenge. Kind of feel bad for the people dying in all these weird, bizarre ways. But you're also kind of cheering on all these kills. Like, you're just kind of like, yeah, suck it, bullies. Kind of get wrecked, or at least that's the way I kind of feel when I'm watching movies like this. But yeah, the way that this telepathic girl kind of takes out her revenge in Enigma is pretty awesome. She controls or possesses this other chick who moves into her old room and then can somehow make other people see things that aren't really happening. Or at least that's kind of like how I understood it. But yeah, there's some really crazy shit that happens. It's very, very Italian. Like, there's this death involving snails. You kind of see part of it here behind me now. And a death involving a statue. And then there's also this wild, oiled up sex scene that kind of turns nightmarish. There's a lot to love about this movie. Overall, I thought it was pretty decent. It's not really missing anything. It just didn't totally blow me away. It has pieces of other movies like Suspiria and Carrie and some other classics, but it just doesn't quite reach the same heights as those other movies in my opinion. I think I'd give Enigma maybe like a solid 3 stars.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, future Keith. That's gonna do it, guys. That was the 10 blind buys that I picked up in Brother Belial's Severin sale. Here they are again, still in the plastic here. But yes, thank you for watching. Future Keith, thank you for contributing. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy.